Psychologically, when you are in a situation where you're afraid, you don't listen well. Because why would you listen very well when you think you're in significant danger? So you don't do a lot of things well when you're afraid. So if you are fearing rejection, something bad happening, a person hurting you, then you become guarded. And when we're guarded, we don't have to worry about actually listening very well because we're going to run. We're going to freeze, we're going to do something different. It's not necessary to listen well in that situation, but it causes a big problem. That's why we have to prepare in advance for situations that could be triggering, to have a script potentially. That's why you prepare to speak, because it triggers people. But when you let go and you just speak and relax, but you still have your outline, It's a great thing. People that listen well, they have a superpower. Leaders that listen well, that's their superpower. And there's a lot of people out there in this world that don't feel understood. They don't feel like people hear them and listen to them. You can be that person in their life as a leader that understands them, that takes time for them. So welcome to the Decide Your Legacy podcast. Today's episode is on listening is your leadership superpower. I'm your host, Adam Gragg. I am a family therapist. I'm a life coach, a leadership coach. I founded Decide Your Legacy in 2012. And at Decide Your Legacy, we help businesses and leaders live courageously. And FYI, everybody is a leader. You influence your neighbors, your friends, your family. You're in a role, in a position of influence. And I have a great, wonderful guest. He is another legacy coach at Decide Your Legacy, Sherman Orr. And he's going to chime in today. So say hello, Sherman.
Hello, everybody out there. I hope you get a lot from this podcast.
Okay. And so I struggle with listening. You know, one reason I struggle, Sherman, is because my emotions are very strong. And people will say often that I don't. Some will say I show strong emotions. Some will say that I don't. I really feel passion, very strong emotions inside. You know, if I like something, I really like it. If I don't like something and I'm afraid, I can carry that with me. And I don't even always see it because I'm not self-aware all the time. And that's something I have to work on and be aware of every day.
Yes, you have to do that because every day we're called upon to listen as a leader in every situation, whether it's at work or at home. And it's very easy to become defensive, dismissive, and to engage in all those really dismissive practices. And that's a time when we have to stop and slow down and maybe ask the question, why am I not able to hear? Why am I not really listening to what this person has to say?
Is that a struggle for you?
It is a struggle. So oftentimes when somebody will come up to me, especially in my new role as a legacy coach here, continuing coaching, when someone asks me, wow, what are you doing now? And sometimes it's a very positive question, and oftentimes it's negative. And when I hear that negativity in that question, it makes me want to say, oh, they're judging me already, and so I need to just move on and get away and become defensive instead of just saying open, honest, vulnerable conversation.
Man, if you can have the heart of peace towards somebody and remember it's their issue, it's just noise, it's their insecurity, it's that, and not take it personally, then you can listen. When you're defensive, I know for me, then I really don't listen well. In fact, I think about how I can escape or how I can defend my position. I'm not listening in that situation.
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight. And how can the best connections you ever have with people that I ever have found is when I stick it out to get the meat of what they're trying to express. And they feel understood, and I feel like I've understood them, and the connection actually occurs. What a great thing. I mean, connection is where it's at. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's absolutely 100% possible if you work on it. And we're going to talk to you today about how you can become a better listener. Real experiences. This is going to make you more money in your sales job. It's going to keep your employees retained longer. It's going to help you to interview at a much better level. It's going to help you to increase revenue, decrease stress, give you more sleep. So you don't have to deal with the anxiety that comes from not listening well and not feeling as if you got somewhere in your meetings, in your relationships.
It's going to strengthen you across the board, as you've said, Adam, but also in your friendships, in your relationships within your family. Because this isn't just business. This is like everything. We're in a world with 8 billion people.
8 billion people. And it's grown a lot in the last 100 years, for sure. So something we do at every episode is we share a fear that we have faced over the last week. And we do that to inspire you to face your fears, because nothing is more important to your progress and confidence than facing your fears, and nothing is more damaging to your confidence than playing it safe, ultimately. And something that I have done recently is I faced a fear by having a meeting with a business leader that I wanted to avoid. And Sherman knows why in the details, but I knew that being around a specific person was going to trigger some very strong emotions in me, both good and bad. And I was doing all kinds of things to actually avoid it. I had the meeting. It actually went better, much better than I thought. And it didn't go south. I felt insecure. I did. I don't know if I looked insecure, but I felt at times insecure. And it just triggers some feelings in me that I don't have very often. And I knew that running from it wasn't going to be the best decision. And I'm grateful for friends, and I'm grateful to myself, but it feels good because my confidence increased from it. I don't know if I'm totally over the hump, but I feel like I made some progress.
Made significant progress that way. And that's the same thing in my own life. I am not a handyman by any stretch of the imagination, and owning a home can be stressful at times. But I've had a great group of friends that have been helpful to me, fixing doors, HVAC, whatever happens to be. Well, I knew this person was beginning to have lots more work on their plate, but I needed to ask them to help me do one more thing in the house, which was going to be a big project. And I was dreading this conversation because I kind of knew in the back of my mind that, darn, he's going to say no. But I said, I have to have this conversation too, even though I know, because maybe he's going to surprise me. Maybe he's going to say, my 3 houses, I can ignore them for a week and help you. But I asked the question, and he was like, oh, I'm so snowed under. And I was like, dang, that's the answer I was afraid I was going to get. But it's okay, because now it's like, all right, he does have a good reason. He's not abandoning me. He's doing what he needs to do. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you got information now, and it's hard to get bad information, but actually it's much healthier for us emotionally to get the bad information.
Yes.
So if even Wednesday, I got some bad information from an employee that I didn't want to hear, that was shocking in a way, but it was the right information. It was a brave conversation. It was brave on all fronts, and it was information that freed the business up to know how we're going to get certain needs met that we can't get met from this specific employee in this way any longer, at least for the time being. But it was an honest and good and healthy conversation. So we have 3 big ideas for you as a leader regarding listening. You're going to get to take away and apply right away in your life. And so the first big idea that I want to share is that they are not the enemy. The person that you're talking to that could be triggering you, that makes, in your mind, you're saying, in your own, you're probably justifying it at times, saying, well, they're going to make me feel bad. Or they're going to share something with me, like your friend, that's going to make me feel bad. But ultimately, you're externalizing the problem as somebody else besides you. When it is external to you, you don't have to, even that strong emotion that you feel is external to you. You're having a feeling of jealousy. You're having a feeling of insecurity. You're having a feeling of excitement and joy, but it's external to you, and it may not be based on factual information. When you recognize that that emotional reaction that you have is coming from you, then it gives you some power. And then you can start owning it yourself and saying, well, what am I going to do to dig deeper with this feeling? What is it about the situation that's leading me to feel jealous? What are the facts of the situation? What is about the situation is triggering my anxiety? And then you get to dig deeper. Illustration happened yesterday. Situation with a business leader and the spouse of the leader came in, which we do that from time to time because, personal relationships impact leadership performance. So we were going to unpack some situation. And this leader had a difficult business challenge that was involving a lot of money and millions of dollar situation. And it involved some attorneys and on both sides. And he was coming home from work and not communicating with his wife about what was really going on inside of his life, in his head. And so she felt isolated from it, and she felt like he didn't trust her. I would say, in a way, like trust her to be able to handle it in a healthy way. And as he could see that in this case, she wasn't the enemy. She was someone that wanted to support him. And if they could get to understanding, she left believing that his big fear was that he didn't want to expose her to stress. And he also felt like he was letting her down by having this business stress that he was dealing with. When she wanted to support him, he was having trouble believing that. But there was some tears shed. I mean, it was a really powerful situation because they felt some understanding there, but he had to realize she was not the enemy, and the enemy was really within himself, how he was dealing with that situation.
Exactly. So that was the breakthrough, is he was willing to listen to what she was really saying and realizing, no, she's not the enemy. She's actually my partner in life and is going to be supportive. So in our culture today and in our world today, it's so easy to polarize everybody instead of saying they're not the enemy. The enemy oftentimes, as you've just said in this first great big idea, is often in my own head.
Yes.
So that I shut people off. I don't listen. I can't hear what they're saying. I immediately say no, whatever, inside my head, or other things, thousands of other things that can go on.
And if you don't recognize that if you recognize that it's within yourself, then you don't have to get nearly as defensive. It's something external to yourself that you can actually start to deal with. Yesterday, business meeting, I'm giving you real examples because they're fresh in my mind. I was feeling like I wanted to run from an interaction, a situation. I mean, like literally, I was feeling that way. But if I can recognize that this is my past coming up inside of myself, then it's not the actual current situation that is the enemy that I have to be defensive in. It's actually this hurt part of me that rises up that I can recognize and say, that's the past coming into the present situation. I don't have to listen to that or react to that. And if I can be aware of it, then I can do something different. Then I have some power over my emotions. I can still handle them and even not try to impress people when that might be my go-to when I'm anxious, is to prove my worth. Big deal for myself. And I had some victory with that. So the second big idea is to get past the surface when you listen. You're going to find listening to be a very productive activity if you realize the power in getting past the surface where you can solve the real problem. If I'm listening to people, and as a counselor for over 25 years, I mean, lots of people, and you as a pastor for over 30 years, you've listened to a lot of different people. And it can be easy to want to go and skim over the actual core issue because that may trigger me. There's something called transference, countertransference. There's a process where we can be triggered and not want to go deeper because it relates to something in our personal lives. And then we're transferring that to the other person because it's something that we're unaware of in ourselves. And if you get past the surface, then you can solve the real issue. And that is amazing. It's amazing what happens when you listen. And I can be, well, I would tell you that addiction and excuses and avoidance tendencies that I can actually have are because something in that situation where I don't want to have the conversation is going on inside of me, where I'm going to go ahead and become a workaholic, or I'm going to become just fixated on something else outside of myself because I don't want to actually face that specific core issue. And I do it every day. I can do it often, but if I am willing to listen to them, then I'm going to see that what they shared is a core issue that we can dig deeper on, and they feel understood. So yesterday, in fact, even today, a couple situations with clients where they would share some family dynamic that's causing issues, or a personal fear that they have that they just allude to that's causing them issues, to not go deeper. And if I don't go ahead and pick up on that, like what is so scary about making sales calls, or what is so scary about holding your people accountable, then I didn't really listen if I wasn't picking up on that to ask that deeper question.
Right. Just like you said today, I mean, being able to listen to some folks for a bit, and it was all very surface level in the very beginning, but they were watching, and they were watching us listen. And as they saw that, then when we would ask a question, this is what we hear. Is this the issue? And they were able to say, well, that's part of it, but it actually goes so much deeper. And they were willing to share that with us because they saw us listening, and they were willing, and we responded back to them. And then they said, okay, here, you're listening to me. You can hear me. This is our issue.
And you're providing psychological safety.
Yes.
You're making it safe to connect. And you do that when you're willing to be vulnerable yourself, which I find the leaders have to go first in being in being available to other people themselves. So you share about a struggle that you have. I mean, I'm sharing today about some insecurities that I have that go deep, that I've had to face. I mean, I had to face them yesterday. Had to face them today. I had to face actually a lot of them over this last week. I mean,
it's been a big week.
You can think about this week and think like, yeah, okay. Do I want to share that with you? In a way, I kind of do, because there's freedom in just being honest about your struggles. And I'm not succumbing to these things. It means that I'm able to be more aware of my own self so that I have power over it. So that's really encouraging to me, actually. But I can avoid, and I can make so many excuses, and I can act like I don't have issues when I actually do. And sometimes I have more issues than anybody else, and I probably do in my own head. So one question will lead on to the others. You miss so much if you don't actually listen, and it takes away your anxiety when you practice getting below the surface, because you're picking up on the real core problem, and that's going to connect you with people in such a deeper way, more than you ever thought possible. Some practical things you can do to create safety is be willing to reflect back what you hear. It sounds like you're saying this. It sounds like you're saying that. Am I understanding you correctly here? Is this what you were trying to say? Powerful stuff. Staying silent and letting them talk more and more can create psychological safety, meaning they feel safe to connect with you because you're willing to listen to them longer. And they're going on, but you're channeling it in with deeper questions. Yes or open-ended questions.
Open-ended questions, right.
You're actually picking up on what they said and asking them more. So we had a sales conversation over the last week with a business, and they said that picked up on something about delegation. And that conversation could have been just grazed over, but Sherman picked up on the fact that it was a deeper issue. I picked up on the fact that it was a deeper issue, and it was one where there was a whole bunch of potential to discuss. Well, what is going on there? And you can think of that with your kids. I bet you experience that, where your kids want to gloss over an issue, and then you have the ability to actually ask for a deeper understanding in that situation. Or you have a spouse that maybe wants to gloss over the issue and not go deeper, and they're very good, and people do become very skilled at actually staying on the surface level.
Right. Distraction, defensiveness.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm busy. I don't have time for that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Let's sweep it under the rug, and we'll get to it maybe next year.
Right. And your good friends and the people that really want to help you and the coaches that you hire that really want to help you, they're not going to let you do that. Yesterday, this is a crazy thing, but I had a client that I challenged with her busyness, because it was consistently, I challenged to say, hey, sometimes this is my perception. I could be wrong, but it seems like you're too busy for me to challenge you between our sessions sometimes, especially when it's on these specific topics related to this issue that I perceive. And just so you know, I disguise the genders of my clients sometimes. So if you're listening out there, I may be talking about you, and I may not. There's a lot of consistent, common problems. Avoidance is one of the big ones. Even for these high-performing, successful people, they avoid in areas where there's the most discomfort. But we don't want you to do that, because we know there's going to be a breakthrough at the other end of that process right there. So the third big idea, and this is really a big idea when you think about it, because you may not actually think of it this way, is to put intentional time into practicing your listening skills. Because for most of you listening, I bet you can relate. You want to talk about yourself at times. You want people to understand you, and it doesn't seem like they're going to understand you better, or what you're trying to sell, or the point you're trying to make, if you're just listening to them. But I would challenge you to have conversations, even when you're trying to get to know a new business. A lot of business leaders listening out there, you're trying to make sales, you're trying to build relationships. But if you listen to somebody and just get to know them and ask about them and their personal life, and you don't make any kind of sales pitch, you don't make any kind of ask, that could be a very valuable interaction. I'm not saying you don't have to ask. You do have to ask, because that's why you're in business. You have to make revenue, but ultimately you're in business to help other people. Sounds a little bit strange sometimes, but you're building that level of trust. And if you're listening, and I'm not saying to anybody listening that you don't have to ask for the money, because you do, because you won't have a business if you don't. And you can see it's a both and you can see that there's great value in an understanding. You're going to get that ripe opportunity. You're still going to have to take it, and you still might want to avoid it to actually get some new business, but you're still going to want to say, hey, can we get this proposal to you, and let's talk it through next week. It still has to happen, and it's a very important thing to happen. And you leave them in interactions where they feel valued and heard. Your kids, your family, it's going to have a huge impact.
You have to practice listening. It's something that, of course, I've been doing my whole life is practicing listening. I haven't been always the best listener because oftentimes I kind of, like Adam said, modalities, and you kind of already know where this is going and you're formulating your answer before they finish talking. And it's like, no. And I noticed about probably 10 years ago that I wasn't able to listen very well. And it continued to get worse and worse and worse. And I finally decided I'm going to go see an audiologist and see what's going on. And I'm probably now one of the most outspoken advocates for hearing aids that anybody would know. And so I went to an audiologist so that I could listen better. They call them hearing aids, but hearing is, most of us hear lots of things. Your brain blocks out 90% of what you actually hear. But listening is a skill. It's an art form. And so I was recognizing the loss of hearing was impacting how I could listen. And so I really went in there and I said, what can I do? I don't know what's going on. And he explained everything to me and said, you're not too young. I was under 50 when I got them. And he said, you're not too young. Get started early. And I love it because now I can hear, and that helps me listen better. Even though there's lots of people out there that need it, and one thing or another, whether it's maybe vanity or whatnot, I don't care. And 90% of the people don't know I have them, but they're absolutely necessary. So you have to practice listening, not practice hearing, practice listening.
So the hearing aids actually helped you listen.
Yes, because I could understand everything they said, whereas beforehand, I would miss words from time to time, and I just this doesn't make sense.
And you can be prepared to listen. In sales, handling objections is a very valuable skill. To know what those objections are going to be because you've created a list of what they might be, and when those objections come, like it's too expensive, or we're not ready because we need more time to make the decision, or we need to see your references. We need to have more information on the ROI. And those things can be valuable information for them to have, but there are also objections that you can handle. So what is it about the ROI that you need? You have follow-up questions to answer those objections. What is so expensive about it? Or what do you feel like the value would be if you engaged to deal with that expenditure? And if they can say wholeheartedly that it's, well, if I spend $10,000, I see this making us $100,000 over the next 6 months, well, that's going to answer their question right then. But you only would have gotten to that if you listened to their objections. One of my buddies, Luke, who is a really good salesperson, he's told me today, because we were talking about this very subject over lunch, says, I love objections. I love objections, because people will come and say, well, you're 15% higher. He owns a sign business, by the way. So you're 15% higher than the signs that we've priced out in this market. And he says, yeah, you're right, because we offer this and this and this. It gives them a chance to answer that objection in a way that's going to convince them and show them the value. Objections are necessary for someone to understand the value, so you can practice that. You can practice, what are you going to do when someone's defensive that you're supervising? What question are you going to ask them? How are you going to listen? How are you going to listen for understanding? How are you going to stay calm? You practice by dealing with your own anxiety as you step in. I had to practice dealing with my own anxiety in the situation I faced yesterday. I had to know that in that situation, I'm probably going to have this tendency to want to do X, Y, and Z when I know the healthy thing. If I am confident, then I'm going to do this and this and this. And so I could think of those things in advance and say, well, I'm going to have a game plan and have fun and be myself. Because that was the challenge for me in times where my little old Adam comes out. I'm not myself, dude. I'm not, because sometimes people don't get to know me. Like my family, for example, I've lived as a in a certain way sometimes with them, and I let my true colors come out, and sometimes they're shocked because I'm extroverted. I feel like I care about people and I want to help people, but I'm also not the person that I've been in other situations around those dynamics because of not being courageous, because of being anxious. Can you think of situations where you could really use some practice listening, Sherman?
Oh, every day. I mean, I think it's always.
What are the triggering situations where you're like, okay, I can practice in advance to listen in that situation because I know it's going to come up for me?
Oh, I'd say definitely like you said, in sales objections to what we do and being able to go through it and have those at hand to be able to say, okay, when you say this, that, or the other thing, and then part of it is they have a real objection. I've listened to it. What are they saying? And then being able to say like an ROI or anything like that. It's like, well, I hear what you're saying. You're saying your return may not be as great as you want, but the thing is, this is a magical product. This is going to help you in every part of your life, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Getting to the point where you can know what the real problem is so that you can solve the problem or offer them a solution. But you're only going to get there if you listen really well. So in a sales conversation, hopefully, I don't know how much time I spent talking today, but I would hope it was they talked 70% of the time. Maybe, and if not, then maybe I'm not doing the right thing.
I'd say it was 40% of the time, but they were talking because they knew both of us were listening. And it was very powerful, I thought.
You thought they were talking 40% of the time?
No.
We were talking 40%.
Yeah, we talked 40
60.
and they talked 60.
Yeah, that's probably a good ratio.
Yeah.
My self-awareness is not always great with that. I can be a talker, and I am an eye on the disc. That's what I do, is I can talk too much. But the challenge, too, with me not wanting to practice is because I want to get my point across, and I want it to get across efficiently, and I want it to get across quickly. But that hurts me because I'm not understanding what the actual real problem is, and I'm making it about myself, not about them, which...
Remember, you're the enemy. They aren't.
I know. So, big stuff, big deal. I had some situation that I want to wrap things up about listening is, well, daughter's away in college, and she's had some struggles based on she goes to college in Boston, and she's been there for a month and a half. We talk weekly, and she's been telling me again and again, like, it's great. I'm having such a great time. And I believe her. I mean, she would tell me if she was, and I definitely trust that. But this week, it was a little bit different. She said she had a hard day on Monday and Tuesday. And I asked her why, what was going on, and tried to listen, tried to understand. And at first she said nothing and this and that. And then luckily, I listened to some friends who were helping me to understand what kids go through their first semester of college and how being alone can be a challenge. It's my only daughter. Never experienced this before. But I dug deeper, and I shared about, first of all, my struggles and how a lot of people will struggle when they're doing something new, and it can sneak up on them. Mm-hmm. And it's my experience. I shared my challenges I've had with change and new things. And then she started to open up, and she opened up in a pretty deep way. It was like, she's struggling with just the change of being an adult, and it came. And what is that like? I got to ask her some more questions and more questions. And then what happened is I was talking to Sherman and Kelsey because I shared with them, and I listened to their feedback, and they asked me some questions to get more depth of the interaction. And then they encouraged me to go out and visit her, which it's my birthday coming up. And so I decided that I was going to go and say, hey, I would love to come out and see you. We could celebrate my birthday. And she was really excited about that, mm-hmm. And I got a ticket to go out. I'm going to go out for 3 days, 2 nights in Boston, celebrate, get some good lobster, have a good time, get to see my daughter. Haven't seen her in a month and a half. It's a long time to not see your daughter. I mean, there's never not seen her that long in my life, of course. Mm-hmm. Be in the same room with her. That's a big deal. That's really interesting. So that's really cool, but I would have only really gotten if I listened to Kelsey. I told myself this morning, like, I would not have done that had I not listened to the wisdom of other people, because I was in a high anxious mode. I didn't even want to look at the text, I didn't even want to actually deal with it. I was running from that situation.
Yes.
Because I had other situations to deal with. I mean, but that's the most important thing I could ever do. And thanks to friends, I got to a really good place. So if you found this podcast helpful, Something you definitely want to check out is what, Sherman?
I would say decide your legacy.
You'd want to check out Decide Your Legacy. You want to check out
Shatterproof Yourself.
Check it out, because it's 7 small steps to a giant leap in your confidence. Which more confidence you have, the better listener you're going to become. We talk about relationships and anxiety and emotions and fear and self-care and just having a vision, focusing on the right stuff, your value in yourself. You want to check out that course. It's just 25 minutes, a brief worksheet. You go through that. It's going to give you really valuable tips and tricks and connect a lot of this information, especially when it comes to your confidence and how that ties into your listening. Check that out. Again, hit the link to Shatterproof Yourself, light, and it's going to give you some valuable information. So in closing, let's just go ahead and wrap this up. 3 big ideas that leaders you can grasp as you to become a better listener. First is they are not the enemy. The enemy is inside of you. Second is listen to get past the surface. Don't be a surface level type person, and then practice your listening skills. Big stuff, good stuff. Check out Shatterproof Yourself. You'll make my day if you subscribe and you leave a rating and review on Apple or Spotify. You can go ahead and give us some feedback at the end of this on this podcast as well. We'll interact with you. To decide means that you're eliminating other options. Your legacy is the impact that your life will have once you are gone. There's no positive change until you decide to change. And taking action is 80% of that change. You got insight, inspiration from listening today, but nothing's going to happen with this unless you do something. So make a commitment to do something, apply it from today on listening. I want to go ahead and close the way I always do. Make it your mission to live the life today that you want to be remembered for 10 years after you're gone. You decide your legacy, no one else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.